Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our Earth Arts webinar today, the 22nd of July 2026. My name is Michelle Maloney, and in just a moment I'm going to share screen and just do a short introduction to our beautiful presenters today. The buttons are working for me. Hooray. So today we're talking about celebrating the Maranoa, and this is part of our Kinship program. And our beautiful guest speakers today are Vicky Saunders, Jude Roberts and Renata Buziak. But first, I'd like to acknowledge country. I'd like to acknowledge that I live, work and play in the beautiful lands of the Qd peoples here in southeast Queensland. I'd like to acknowledge all First Nations peoples across this beautiful continent, anyone on our call today, and all the folks around the world. I'd like to acknowledge that the governance systems created by Aboriginal peoples and the first peoples of all of our lands are some of the oldest and most sophisticated in the world in terms of caring for country and caring for kin. And it is with great awe and admiration I work with many Indigenous mates as we look to a future where we can be more socially just, ecologically sensible, and thriving in a very, very disrupted and changing world. That's the picture I often show of the beautiful Glasshouse Mountains, which are part of the view if I walk up the hill behind my house. So I want to acknowledge Cubby country there. For anyone who doesn't know about AELA, the Australian Earth Laws Alliance is a very small but mighty not-for-profit. We were created about 12 or 13 years ago. We've had funding for 3 or 4 years. Our mission in life is to help increase the understanding and practical implementation of Earth-centred governance. And by governance, we mean all the rules that are woven into our society, whether it be from the parents at the tuck shop to the corporate folks to the way we govern our society in general and in communities. We're interested in how we interact with each other and, very importantly, how we interact with the non-human world. What we're interested in is shifting from a human-centred and particularly a growth-focused and extractivist mindset towards this earth-centred worldview, where we acknowledge what I think is a scientific and spiritual truth that we are all living beings on this beautiful planet, floating in the inkiness of space, and we owe it to all the other creatures to care and not destroy. I also want to mention, for anyone who's not familiar with our work, we're very inspired by concepts that would be called in Western language deep ecology and earth jurisprudence, which is something beautiful concept written mostly about originally by Thomas Berry. But here in Australia, we're also deeply inspired and always like to acknowledge the work of people like Indigenous elder Mary Graham and Anne Paulina for their remarkable generosity in sharing their governance approaches and the knowledge that's been handed down to them through the generations. So AELA is not just respectful of or giving lip service to the work that we all have to do in solidarity together. It's literally imprinted in our DNA, and it's really important. And it's exciting. So the work that we do through Future Dreaming and now supporting Mary Graham to build her Wajan Research Hub, really powerful stuff. But towards today, we're really, really excited that thanks to beautiful people like Dawn and Leisha, who've stepped up this year to be our new Earth Arts volunteer coordinators, we've been able to restart what was a biennial arts program. We've themed the theme is Kinship, celebrating our interconnectedness. And I won't go into the website now, but if we have time at the end, I might just pop it in the chat and remind folks there are a number of different ways that anyone who's feeling creative and connected and wants to share their existing work or create beautiful things, there's a number of ways that you can connect into Kinship, connect with others. We have monthly online little chats at the moment with the group talking about what we're all up to. And we also have on the website a number of ways where you can submit artwork to share on the virtual gallery, which we hope we'll have up by early next week. We've already got 9 or 10 submissions, which is really exciting, and a whole bunch of other ways for you to do things. But now I'd like to hand over to Vicky Saunders, who's very kindly stepped in to join the wonderful team today because Vernessa Fien wasn't able to join us. So I might hand over to Vicky and stop sharing and hand it over to our wonderful speakers today. Vicky, how are you today?
Thanks, Michelle, for that beautiful introduction. And always in awe of the work that Annie Mary Graham and Anne Paulina and your group are doing. And thanks everyone for joining in to listen today. So Yowala, Vicky Saunders Naya, Gungriumbi Mitchellgu Maranoa, Yimbana Naya Yelena Dundigu, Binda Woolloongabba, Bin Yimbana Naya Mandana Yelena Dundi, Yimbana Naya Wadaran, Mamagan, Macha, Naya Nula Nugala, Gugulina Nala Manage, Yantaralu. So hi, I'm Vicky Saunders. I'm a Gungri woman from the Maranoa in southwest Queensland, and I'm dialing in here from Bindal Woolloongabba country, just north of Townsville. And if it's okay, I'd like to start our session with a short invocation to country that was written or created partly as a poem and as a prayer for the countries we're all joining in from, and who orient who we are together, who we were and who we will be. So I started with untranslated Gungri words, from words my father's ancestors used to say, to acknowledge first and foremost the place where we've gathered here today, and the absence of the sounds and songs that once sang this country's music in a very different way. I use these words to acknowledge the land where each of us are, in this place where our rivers and oceans flow under southern stars. Although on Gungri country, our oceans largely flow underground, and there some of our trees are strangely shaped upside down and round. Here in the land that's been here since long before time began, where our ancestors, past, present, and emerging, still laugh, love, and stand. Naya Nula Nugala means I see you, I acknowledge your very existence, your being. To me, Naya Nula Nugala refers to a whole other way of seeing. I see you. I acknowledge the spirits of all our ancestors in this place, those who are present and those who may be absent in this case. I also use these words to acknowledge you who are listening here today, to what these words mean for you, yet in English cannot quite say. What they say speaks to the spaces between Aboriginal and English words, to the sounds beneath all the sounds that you may or may not have heard. They speak to a way of listening that somehow in some of us yet stirs, that Annie Miriam Rose calls Dadiru because it has no English words. So to close this invocation, I'd like to invite us all to remember where we are and who we are here with. Because as I was taught, when we acknowledge country, we remember our very lives are this country's unspoken gift. So Buddha Yinda, thanks again for inviting us here today, Michelle, and to everyone for listening in. As Michelle said, I'm filling in here for Vernessa Fien, the co-lead of our group with Jude and the curator for the Roma exhibition we've just launched. Unfortunately, Ness couldn't be here today and she sends her best wishes. And it's because of her and because of so many others that our arts group has been coming together to play and create together along the Maranoa River for nearly 10 years today. Although for some of us with families in the region, we've been doing this a lot longer. Jude will talk about this a little bit more later, but our growing arts collection started with a camp organised by Jude and Sariva and Annie Lynette over 10 years, just on 10 years ago on the Maranoa River during NAIDOC in 2018. The theme that year was Because of Her We Can, and we did, and we still continue to do so. Since then, we've held many camps and exhibitions, and we keep coming back to the river and to acknowledge those whose shoulders we stand on in the Maranoa and whose absence is always present, felt, resonating throughout our work and our time together. We also come together to acknowledge the uniqueness and the strange peacefulness of the country that keeps bringing us, keeps drawing us back. The exhibition we've recently launched in Roma is called Terra-rara, which is Latin for rare earth, and it's the name of a property in the region. And our exhibition is a celebration of the Maranoa and our time together. Our group emphasises kinship in both how we work together and in the shared feelings that our exhibitions evoke. Vernessa, Jude and the group have pulled together a large body of work, actually, that brings together many stories and layers. The exhibition also commemorates and acknowledges the absence of an amazing Gungri artist and Murdu, or man, whose poetry and artwork still speaks to me in ways that are very hard to express. His life was an expression of great courage and spirit, and I'd like to acknowledge and thank the Dodd family for their support. Yinda. So Yimbaya Maranoa translates as listening to country and the river that runs through it. And you might have guessed my role in the group is more of a poetic role. And so to close my introduction here and to hand over to Jude and Renata, I've created a poem here that speaks to the ideas of kinship, and it echoes some of our moments together in time on the Maranoa, and it's called Becoming Kin. So in ways that go beyond words, in ways unheard, it is a river that brings us together in all sorts of seasons and weather, back to timeless places mapped in the way together we play, create, and how we say those things that can't be said, those things felt, heard with more with hearts and heads, things that make visible the strange absence of epistemic violence and the power in the Maranoa of an enduring great Australian silence that ever disrupts growing relationships and kinship with place and our relations with others who have been and are displaced, and who often unintroduced seek to control or to own that which is more of a paradox, a mystery, or a koan. How can you own that which owns us and that to which we belong? Unheard, under our feet, an unseen river keeps singing its song, a river unnamed called kin, family, and in-law, and whose resonant sounds mean so much more than just words. So Buddha Bayinda, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to introduce this to you, Jude. And is it okay to hand over to you now to talk to this beautiful image of all of us here?
Thanks, Vicky. And hello, everybody. I'm dialing in from Turrbal and Jagera country, but I'd like to acknowledge the place where we work and we're exhibiting the traditional owners, the Gungari and Manandangi, as well as neighbouring peoples. I've got a few slides here, just as I'm talking about it, just as Vicky was saying too, about kinship, the poem Vicky shared with us, got me thinking about what allows kinship too. And I think our collective does this really well through various means. So that's, I mean, we have got so much to talk about. We could be here for hours. So I just thought we could focus on that sort of thing. Here we've got the map of the Great Artesian Basin too. So the area where we meet and create work together is on the Maranoa River, and it's above the Great Artesian Basin. So that area that's drawn over the overlay of Vicky's map shows that vast area that we create on. And just with some of Vicky's work there, Nullangu and the exhibition. So throughout, the visuals will talk a bit more than I can even say in words, and as Vicky said too, we dedicated the exhibition to the late Bill Dodd. So we've got a collection of his works in the gallery. They're beautiful drawings, all drawn from his mouth with various colourful pens. And we've done projections at the Yamba with his work, which he, found inspiration from the bush and the river and his memories of being a stockman. I mean, that is a whole talk in itself, just talking about Bill. There's up to about 20 artists that fluctuate depending on the exhibition and availability, but for the Aroma exhibition, we've got the various artists, Vernessa as curator, and a few of us coordinating, Vicky, Helen, Hardis, Marion, Drew, myself. While I'm just talking about the kinship and our collective, I will just go through some slides without explaining each slide, but they'll be all the overviews of the exhibition at the moment. So what allows kinship with our group is it's a grassroots creative practice. So as Vicky said also, we do meet on particular sites significant to Gungari peoples, but they're also sites where historically Major Mitchell, the explorer and surveyor, came through the Maranoa region. So it's here where that intersection of that Western histories with Indigenous cultural stories as well. So the collaborative projects, they allow for cross-cultural conversations, exchanges of ideas, skills, and knowledge. And it reinforces those cultural connections as well as respect and curiosity. And I think that's what allows that kinship. The camp residencies also give access to places, because most of them are on private property. It gives us access to these places where we can, as the visiting art, we call ourselves the visiting artists. So a lot of us are from Brisbane and we come out, but we all have a connection to the Maranoa. I, for one, lived out there for 21 years. And so there's a lot of the Gungri artists that we meet. They either are in Mitchell themselves or in areas. I mean, Vicky at the moment lives in Townsville. So we come from all around, and it's amazing actually how we do all meet and organise that. And also the power of a group, of a collective, that allows kinship. We come together, we're a diverse group, and that way of creating together. And I'll quote here Brad Saunders, who did the opening of our exhibition. He said, "Art is a way of keeping culture alive and accessible. It teaches, it heals, it creates connections across generations." And as you can see throughout the slides, the diversity of work, we do try to bring in digital means as well as more traditional means of art making. I think the digital side of it is great because it can be accessible in various ways. Sharing, even on the opening night, we had some large scale projections at the Hibernian Hall, and and throughout that too, we've also had a lot of workshops. So we're sharing our skills throughout the workshops as well. Each camp residency we always try to do a collaborative, at least one collaborative project together. The one at Terra-rara, one of them was we brought out a large scroll of paper that I actually had previously used on a project 12, 13 years ago, the One River project. So it had already been soaked into the river. So we made marks through crushed up charcoal. And as you can see, that's the stains of the river previously. But I'll just turn on this few-second video. So yeah, we're crushing up the charcoal, and we wipe the charcoal on everyone's feet and hands, and we all have a turn at doing it. And so you get the sense that it's fun and it's play. And so while we're doing this creating, it just brings people together. We have a few laughs as well. It's not always just serious, but you can bring in those complex conversations that, are difficult around the room. And we're on these beautiful sites, so it's very poignant. And so there's the collaborative drawing in the center of the exhibition. It's standing up on its own. It's just beside, Vernessa's dyed a lot of fabric with various ochres. Another way too, with sound, we've done different audios, and I've done an artist book. I'd just like to share just for a few seconds of it. I did this over 2 years, just sitting in the riverbed, and I feel that I wanted to evoke sound within the visual, the mark making, the echoes of the mark making. And just by folding the wet material in the pages, obviously it gives that reflection, two-sided reflection, mirror effect. But to, evoke the feelings and the sounds that we experience on those sites that we're trying to bring to the exhibition as well. But another collaboration we've done is Aquanullius. It's an audio installation So you can see here the being installed into the gallery space. It's made from a ochre-dyed old tablecloth. And the audio, it just shows to how things are created over time with the collective. Previously, a couple of us had done various recordings. We brought in people like Claire Cowley, who is a musician, and Michelle, who is a Bidjara artist and scientist. And we wanted to bring the voices of women with a language of Gungari, Bidjara and English, and share the ideas about Aquanullius, nobody's water, which has legally separated people and land from the water since 1788. But it wasn't until we got to the edge at the Queensland Library, we booked a recording studio, and we had all these files that we had recorded over time, environmental, domestic, like washing machines, pump water flowing, and sounds of the pump jacks, turkey's nest, pumping water out. But it wasn't until we did get together and Michelle first saw that installation too with the ochre, and it reminded her of her own family histories, the Aboriginal domestic servants enslaved on their own country. And she brought another whole aspect to it. So we can share that on the AELA website afterwards. I'll move on now. Yeah, just showing you an overview of that, and the audio plays throughout the gallery space. Well, you're walking through it, so you're hearing water sounds. Here's the flow of the fabric, just those gentle movements. We've got Anastasia has created 4-dimensional screen with 360-degree views of bottle trees, and it's quite amazing. I just can't even begin to start where we could describe everything. So I think I'll just pass on to Renata now, and as I said, if we did have time, I can show you a few more. I'll just, actually, there's Renata's lamp in this slide just before I stop sharing, beside Warren Saunders' artworks. And I mean, Warren too, his stories that he's put in his paintings are another whole session in itself. He did a workshop or a session and to explain some of the work as a scientist and botanist that he's been doing.
A huge thank you to Vicky and Jude. And yes, thanks so much. That's exciting. Renata.
I'd like to thank you, Michelle. Thank you, AELA, for this opportunity for us to share. And thank you, Vicky and Jude. Well, coming in from Turrbal and Jagera country, Brisbane, and I'd like to acknowledge all the traditional custodians I have the pleasure with working with, playing with, and also all of you joining today. The artworks that I'm going to share are part of my ongoing involvement with the Yimbaya Maranoa Collective, and they created through time spent on Gungari country along the Maranoa River. So this is one of the photos from one of the recent camps on the riverbed, which was a very special time working together and creating. The theme of this AELA Arts program, Kinship, resonates really deeply with us all and with my body of work. For me, kinship is about recognizing relationships with people, with country, with plants, and also with the non-human or more than human world. The Yimbaya Arts camps create these opportunities for First Nations and non-Indigenous artists to come together as on country, as we've already heard, sharing stories, knowledge, creative practices, and time. What makes this gathering so meaningful is that the artworks grow from these relationships. Some of my strongest memories are not only the art making, but actually walking through the landscape, gathering plants, sharing meals together, listening to stories, and learning from one another. Those experiences become part of the artworks that follow, and you already seen some and you can experience in the gallery. The Maranoa River is central to these gatherings. It connects the landscape, the people, and the many stories that are held within country. So the first works that I'd like to share are two cyanotypes on cotton. And they created during recent Yimbaya Arts Camp on Gungri country. And during the camp, I gathered box tree leaves and grasses and found remnants from the landscape. And they include actually rusted heavy chains and farm materials, because the campus, we were located on a property that was farm property. So I was really drawn to the contrast between those elements because of the delicate plants and the forms, and also objects that are very heavy and man-made, that carry traces of human activity and history and time. And I'd like to thank here Mary and Drew for her help on the day with these large cyanotype pieces. And later on in my studio, through bleaching and toning, I softened the traditionally cyanotype deep blue color of the cyanotype into this more kind of connected to the landscape where they were created. So the resulting works, field notes and weight in between, they bring together those impressions of plants and place. And here are a couple of close-ups of those. So for me, these works reflect the many layers held within country, the relationships between nature, humans' histories, and the traces that we actually leave behind. And next works, actually before I go to next works, I thought I'll show a cyanotype that we created in one of the previous camps together as a workshop and actually joint activity. So it was all about the Maranoa River. So I just thought I'll show that and share with you as well. And next works are my illuminated biochrome sculptures. So they feature, this particular one is a vine tree, and the next one will be hopbush. So they are the two plants of Gungri country. These works developed through the generous sharing of plant knowledge and stories by Gungri traditional custodians Sariva Mitchell and Auntie Lynette Nixon. And through time spent on country, I've learned about the significance of these plants and other plants as well, including their relationships with people, place, and cultural knowledge. And this is the actual artwork that was exhibited earlier, a couple of years ago in Mitchell and Injun, and then I transformed it into the illuminant, the lamp. So the biochrome works on paper that these illuminates are based on were exhibited earlier, and the light that transforms the works, revealing the intricate structures of the plants and inviting viewers to spend time with them. So I think I love actually working with this new form that I've started not long ago, these illuminants, because I think they create another way of connecting with plants and allowing they form stories and also presence to be experienced in a different way. So this is the hopbush and the artwork that the hopbush illuminant is based on. And another work that I'd like to share, although it's not included in the exhibition, is box tree. So it is actually represents an important part of this ongoing journey and the experiences during camps. So my relationship with box tree began during an early Yimbaya Arts camp, one of the first ones, and where I was introduced to it and to its significance by Sariva Mitchell. And over the years, through returning to country and listening and learning, that relationship has continued to grow. And in 2024 at Arts Camp, I had the privilege to experience traditional box tree hat weaving with Vernessa Fien, and was a wonderful way of learning about the functionality of this plant. So working with the leaves and seeing how the plant is gathered, prepared and transformed through cultural practice deepened my understanding of box tree beyond its physical form. So this new biochrome artwork honors box tree, their knowledge generously shared by Sariva, Auntie Lynette, and Vernessa. And also for me, this embodies the idea of kinship, a relationship between people, plants, materials, place, and time. And the plant is not simply represented in the image, it becomes actually part of creating of the image. So the work emerges through a collaboration between organic matter, photographic materials, and natural processes, and human attention. So that's why I call these works biochromes. So these works remind me that art can be a way of listening to country, to plants, to stories, and also to those relationships that connect us all. And we grow, and really this relationship get deeper and deeper every year and through every camp and activity. And these are just a couple of shots from the exhibition. So thank you so much, Jude, for these images. So yes, thank you very much for listening.
Just fantastic. Thank you so much to all of our speakers. And we've got time. If anyone has any questions, the quickest thing to do would be to write it in the chat, and Sarah and I will just keep an eye on that for you. But in the meantime, we're going to have a lovely chat about the work that this group's been doing. I wonder, Jude, if we could start with going back in time, because you guys have been out there meeting, how many years now? You've been going out there as a collective for quite a while.
Yeah, we have, Michelle. It'd been 8 or 9 years ago with the inaugural official camp at the what we call the 22 mile, the confluence of the Woomera and the Maranoa. So, and you'd remember that, and what a great camp it was. So, and we're sort of in line. We wanted the exhibition in Roma also to reflect the NAIDOC theme of 50 years deadly, and thinking about those past and acknowledging and celebrating and those nearly 10 years that we've been together. So yeah.
No, I think that's wonderful. And yeah, I have, as you were all showing the photos of the river, I have beautiful memories. For those who don't know, my daughter's now 18.
Oh.
And so, she must have only been 7 or 8 when we went out. I thought that she was quite young. She was young enough to be super enthusiastic about helping the chef prepare meals. I'm pretty sure now she'd just be sitting in the corner not helping. But yeah, it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. We did a big, beautiful artwork together. So I have very fond memories, and I'm trying to plan how I can reconnect with the actual camp in the future years. But thank you, that's beautiful. And Jude, to go even further back, I recall that when the Earth Arts Adventures was first starting in AELA, I saw a piece of your work somewhere, and I think I stalked you. I was so excited to meet someone who was interacting with the Great Artesian Basin. In those early days, I remember I came across some of your work where you were putting, and I know you still do this, relational work with water. Did you want to talk a little bit about that, putting paper and canvas and other things into water, why you do that, and how that helps you connect to the sort of the life of the river and the water that you're talking to?
Yeah, for several years now, my passion has been paper, mainly because it immediately absorbs the surrounds, the water, the moisture, the terrain, and there's different ways that I've explored to echo the marks of, say, the likes of the Maranoa. And so one of the ways is soaking the paper. So back when I did a project for the One River, I got those large scrolls of paper, and because you're using 100% watercolor paper, pure rag, it can last in the water for a certain amount of time without totally destroying itself. But yeah, I guess it's giving the river its agency. It's not just the artist making those marks. You're letting those surrounds create that. and giving the river the voice.
Mm. No, I think it's beautiful. I've always been struck with how delightful that is. And I think I'll be trying to call on your collective and your work in the future. We have a lot of communities connected into AELA who want their rivers better respected, recognised as living beings. I think that could be a really powerful way to start an arts project across the many rivers in actually New South Wales who are trying to tell their stories. So it's truly wonderful. Vicky, thank you, Vicky. You can speak at any time, Vicky. But Vicky's written also the direction the water flows above and below ground identifies who we are in the region. Please do share a bit more about that, Vicky, because we'd love to hear your insights.
Sorry, I've been used to being a participant in webinars. I was just throwing it in there. I just wanted to add to what Jude's saying, that large portions of the water flow underground in the Maranoa region, and it's largely unseen. The Great Artesian Basin, like you, I have a significant interest in what's happening there in that region, especially with what's going on with mining. But as I understand it, and it's different people talk in different ways, and I don't profess to be an expert in this area, but the roof of Queensland, which is the Carnarvon area where Mount Moffat is the source of the Maranoa River, there are 5 rivers that flow from there, and they flow in different directions. Underneath the ground, the Great Artesian Basin flows to 3 different oceans as well. So those elements of the environment, our relationship with it, actually associated with our identities as Gungri, Bidjara, Gungabulla, there are lots of other names, of different neighbouring countries, First Nations groups in the region. So the water is quite significant, and the direction it moves in, also has a...
That's fantastic. Thank you. I never knew that. Very powerful. For anyone who is interested, I have an extreme bias towards the Great Artesian Basin because its molecules are in my body. I was born in Longreach, raised in Barcaldine, and lived on bore water. So to me, that groundwater is very special, very special. But anyway, thank you so much. And Renata, I've always been in great awe of your beautiful work, especially when I first discovered it. You were doing that particular, the work I think that you're talking about with the box tree, where could you talk a little bit more for folks who might be not familiar with the biochrome work? Because isn't it, you do a thing where the process is the leaves start to break down and they work with you to make the art. I don't think many people would know that. They might just think that's you affix it to something and it sits there, but it's a living process. Did you want to talk a bit about that? It's very cool, I think.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. Yes, so what I do is actually I literally collect the plants and fuse them or combine them with photographic materials. And so the materials I work with analog photographic paper, usually, or film, recycled, useless to anyone for darkroom processes anymore. And when that happens, while the plant itself transforms and decomposes over time, it actually transforms the paper as well because of the layers of color and gelatin in it. So what happens, they both transform each other over time. And so that's why the collaboration with nature and natural processes. So there are microbes, there are fungi, bacteria, they all work together to create the art. So it's, I put my part and I have my part that plays a role in it, and then nature takes over. So I just love that fact that what you see is actually the result of collaboration, of this kinship that happens.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's beautiful. And I'll make sure that Sarah or myself put the websites in for all of your works, because you really should check out Jude and Renata and Vicky's engagement with the natural world. It's just fantastic, I think. So turning from your own perspectives, your own personal engagement with your work, can we talk a little bit about, to me, as someone who, as I think many know, always grappling with this, the history of this colonial nation and the lack of formal recognition in many places of Aboriginal connections to place. I've always seen your art project as really fantastic and adventurous because, you talk about Major Mitchell, a white explorer who many would condemn, and you seem to have created a comfortable space to explore all elements of the colonial trickiness of building our relationships together. And I don't know exactly what I'm asking, but I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about the approach that you've used, because you've always had this beautiful way of bringing Indigenous and non-Indigenous creatives together in a way that produces remarkable work. What's it like trying to grapple with some of those issues, talking about the so-called explorers marching up and down other people's backyards? Yeah, how's that work?
Will I start? Or
Please, you start, and then Vicky might like to share, and then.
Yeah, well, it's not always easy, but that's where the arts and playing on the river, creating, we can blend, or not blend, but layer those histories, because yeah, we want to acknowledge all those histories, but and bring to light the histories that have been suppressed for so long, those Aboriginal, the violence and the more complex issues associated with that, and ongoing, of course, with the likes of deaths in custody, and it goes on. But yeah, so yeah, I think we've using processes of creative processes, I think, has helped a lot. And at the camps we sit around a fire and we talk about all sorts of things. So yeah, as I said before, it's respect to and that curiosity to know more, to share. I think that helps a lot. Vicky, do you want to say?
Yeah, just to add to what Jude's saying, and Renata might have other things to add as well. But our walking together has been a leaning into quite a number of tensions. And in the Maranoa region, yeah, as I referred to in the poetic provocation I started with, the Great Australian Silence is alive and well in the region, although, less so these days. And part of what kept the group moving together as a group and coming back together is that uncovering of those stories as we go along, the hidden stories, the silent stories, the silenced stories in the region that come. For me, being Gungri, there's different things, that stories I listen to, and so I always remind some of the people I work with, reconciliation isn't all love and light. The word I would use is it takes courage. It takes courage to lean into some of the truth telling, the tensions, but it also takes courage in the root or the etymology of the word courage is heart. And that's what comes through in the camps. We're committed to a relationship and a relationality that is based on deep respect for the first storytellers in the region. So, and a welcoming or a creation of a space where we can lean into some of these hidden stories in safe ways. Renata, I don't know if you wanted to add
Yeah,
to
Renata,
that.
your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Working with Annie Lynette quite a long time.
Yes, and I was thinking about this before today, about the camps, kind of thoughts going back in time. And to be honest, I really feel privileged to be part of this collective and to be part of this projects. But they're not just projects. I think the way we learn and the way that Gungri traditional custodians actually open up and share with us, and also the things we bring together, like we all bring different ideas and stories, of course, as well, but the learning about the country, and for me especially about plants, because that's my passion since I was little, and learned about medicinal plants in Poland and made remedies with my grandma. It brings me back there as well. But sharing that knowledge and being able to work together and walk together and have challenges, yes, of course. And I think we all grow through that, really grow, like a huge, what I learned and I grew since my knowledge, but also my experience and appreciation of Indigenous cultures in general but of course, specifically here, we're talking about Ngungri, is I can't even describe. And I think the opportunities, how I feel about the exhibition, for example, too, is sharing what we learn through these works. I hope that people can experience that and feel some of that, those stories that we share, you know, the talking about around the fire. I know this is not easy to transcribe and share in an exhibition, but I'm sure there is part of that spirit that people can experience. So I'm just in awe of being together with the collective and being part of it. So I'd love to thank everyone that is sharing and letting that happen.
Yeah, look, and I couldn't agree more. I think the work that you all do together, as you well know, since the early days of stalking Jude and meeting you all in other ways, I've been in great admiration of not just the artistic works you create, which are spectacular, but that endless, relentless commitment, and I mean those words in a positive way, to building relationships. And that is the essence of kinship, kinship with each other across these divides of these great Australian silences. And I can't help imagining what a beautiful set of communities we would have if all communities were able to play and connect with each other bravely, to sit around the fire together and have those opportunities to really yarn up. I think it would be a different space for many of us. So we're just about out of time, which is a shame because I would love to have many more discussions about cyanotype. Am I saying that correctly, Renata? But we might have to save that conversation because that's a whole nother process. But what I'd love to, if you could perhaps just remind us how long the exhibition is on for and where it is. I think Sarah may have put some notes in there or someone did. But if you could just say how long it's on for and what are your plans for next year?
Well, it's on at the Roma on Bungle Gallery in Roma, Western Queensland. And it runs till the 15th of August. That's the day we bump out. And that weekend, actually, Marion Drew will be doing a workshop on the Sunday with her drawing with light. And Donna Malone will be doing drawing playfully with nature. They're both on the Sunday, the day after the bump out.
And so just quickly, I mean, I'm sure you're absolutely ensconced in this year, but to excite us about your future activities next year, are there any thoughts or themes or that's yet to be developed?
Well, of course, we have a camp. We haven't got details about that, but we have one. We try to have one every year. But we are having an exhibition at Redland Gallery in Brisbane that will happen the very end of next year, going into 2028. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
27 to 28. So looking forward to that. So that's about as many plans, and that's probably enough for us at the moment. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Good to hear. Well, look, we're out of time, but what I might do is just if you did want to finish up with any final thoughts, you don't have to, no performance pressure here, but if you did have any final thoughts on the power of kinship or anything else, I'll say goodbye and a huge thank you to our guest speakers and really encourage everyone to connect with their work. And we will be promoting some of their beautiful images on the virtual gallery on the Earth Arts website once we set that one up. And a huge thank you to all of you for being part of this movement of humans connecting with nature in such a beautiful way and with each other. But yeah, any final comments for our speakers?
Michelle, I just wanted to find out if Vicky had a link to her work, a website or Instagram.
Or publications of poetry.
Yeah.
I don't have a link, but I can share some things with you later, Michelle, if you like to put on that website.
Yeah, we'll put it. Well, because we love your work so much and we stay in touch. The Maranoa Collective has a little page of its own on the Earth Arts website. They've got their own work as well, but we'll make sure we put your presentations and your slides and the videos, Jude, we can work out how to present them. So thank you, Sarah. That's a top issue. Yeah. And Vicky, maybe do you have any final words or thoughts for others to think about kinship?
Not really, but I just wanted to say Budabayinda, which is a Gungri word for a word that we actually had to create, which means thank you. But it actually means thank you for all you do and all you are, because we're all related, we're all connected in what we do. And this is quite a powerful thing that ripples out from your work here at AELA. So, yeah, thank you. And thank you to Renata and Jude for all you do.
Thank you as
Beautiful.
well. I'd like to thank you all. And also, I think the theme really brings home what we do and also what we'd like to share with wider audiences so they can join us, but also realize that we are all connected, as you mentioned, Vicky. And also, I'm looking forward to the AELA's week in November and other activities and things that will happen, connecting us all in the same theme of kinship.
Yeah. Thank you, Renata, for remembering to plug our Earth Arts Week. I was so in awe of your work, I forgot to mention it. Thank you so much. And Jude, any final farewells?
Only just reiterating about the communities like AELA, like Maranoa Regional Council, the Roma Ombungal Committee, those people, and GAPA, who are our auspicing body, the support, we wouldn't be able to do what we did without all that support. So it's really important, and thank you very much. And to expose, have those different details in the catalogue that we'll send to you, Michelle and Sarah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. I hope someone wrote, thank you for this was a lovely window into your worlds. And I think that's what webinars offer, just a little window, and particularly our arts programs and our connectivity it's a nice, beautiful, engaging way to take a little break from the bizarreness of human society at the moment. So thank you to everyone, and a huge thank you to Sarah Bashforth, as always. Without Sarah, our little AELA boat would not stay afloat. So thank you, everybody, and we really look forward to seeing you soon, and I cannot wait to get out to Roma and roam around the exhibition there and see you all soon. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.